Welcome back to Gruber Motor Company and the Tesla Roadster Morning Show. I'm Pete Gruber.
I'm Mark Schaffner. Good morning and welcome, everybody. And I'm going to start with just a real quick question. I didn't see if we had our Instagram people up or not.
Yes, Instagram has started.
Instagram is online.
Awesome,
Okay.
thank you.
All right. We really appreciate, by the way, all of the visitors, the audience. It continues to grow, and it looks like we're adding some value, and you guys are enjoying it. We're enjoying it.
This is just so fun. When I first got into this, I would tell Pete, this is just kind of a kick in the pants. It's just a fun time and really enjoy the time with the audience as well.
And as always, let us know where you're coming in from. We can see the platform that you're asking these questions from. And again, today's session is not completely dedicated to just roadsters, but we'd like to keep that theme. And we've got a number of news items and some tips for you regarding the first generation Tesla Roadster. The image behind us is a rendering of a electric blue Tesla Roadster and in a rainforest. You can see how AI really does capture the essence of that prompt. On the flip side, I had hoped this morning that I would be able to get an image of a Tesla Roadster on a sailing ship, a clipper ship, in the middle on the ocean with tumultuous waves, calm sea. I tried all those different prompts. And you know what? I tried probably 10 times with different prompts. It just can't put that together. And it's most likely because there have been no Tesla Roadsters on a sailing ship before.
Other than the World Traveler that was on the Aventura.
Right.
I wondered, and you can answer this question for me, Pete, I think, can you ask for a prompt, have AI draw your image, and then go back to AI and say, okay, now from that image, do this, and have, generations of the same image?
I don't know, Jesse, does that sound like something that can be done?
Unfortunately, not that I'm aware of. I know that you can upload existing images to Midjourney, and you can try to manipulate them, but we haven't really found a good way to work with that yet. It's still in kind of like a beta phase, I think.
Right.
But they did add the zoom feature where you can create an image with the new 5.2 Midjourney, and then it gives you the option, once it's generated, to hit zoom, and there are different varying levels of zoom that you can do, and it'll zoom out, and it'll do a generative fill on the rest of the image and keep that kind of same image. But as far as manipulating the image into other things and stuff like that, I don't think you can do that.
Okay.
Now, what you can do, however, is get some help with prompt generation by using ChatGPT-4.
Yes.
By describing what you're looking for, and it will then give you a prompt that the AI world will be happy with.
Yes.
By the way, that zoom image, that capability works extremely well. What it actually does is it fills using the same format and background, and because it's AI, and so you can actually take a centrally located image like this and expand on that rainforest and get a lot more detail.
That's very cool.
So one of the things I wanted to pop up here was, Jesse, we've got an image of a Tesla Roadster that was on eBay, and it is called the eBay Roadster. This is VIN number 295, which was up on eBay for about a week or so, and you can see the prices there. The bid got up to $68,000. And the buy it now was $84,500. Well, the reason it's so low is because this car is dead. It's bricked. In the Roadster world, that means you need a $32,000 battery replacement in order to make this Roadster operational. So I saw this car out on eBay, and I thought, a brick Roadster typically would sell for about $50,000 to $60,000. In this market currently, because what people are doing is they'll take the buy price and add $32,000 to it, and then try to match what the current market rates are, which for Roadsters is about $90,000 to $110,000 right now. So that would have been a reasonable price to ask for a non-pedigreed Roadster, brick Roadster. This one is unique, however. It's a bit different, and I was shocked that no one picked this up because they must have missed something. In the description, it clearly indicates that this is a 1,500-mile Roadster. The exact odometer reading is actually 1488. Well, in the world of Roadster collecting, the ones that have been fetching high prices are the ones that are either low VIN, low mileage, of course, some sort of a pedigree, celebrity owned, and some examples here are, and I did some comp values with this car. VIN number 1417 with 347 miles on the odometer, just sold on our matchmaking site for $225,000. And the primary reason was it wasn't a low VIN. It was a good clean car, but it was that low mileage 347 that pushed this thing above $200,000. It was also a non-signature car, which also adds value to Roadsters. The signature cars were the first 100 in the U.S. or first 250 in Europe. They have a little carbon fiber plaque, and so it gives it an additional provenance or pedigree. VIN number 1410, which sold a year ago, had 1,300 miles, which is closer to this one. This one's 1488, and it sold for $190,000 a year ago. Again, not a special low VIN. It was not celebrity owned. Its primary value to a collector was the low mileage.
That year ago sale is remarkable to me as well, because you look at the beginning, middle of 2022, if we're talking about around a year ago, Roadster values peaked right at the end of 2021, and they went down probably 30% from the end of 2021 until summer of 2022. So for that Roadster to go for $190,000 in mid-2022, to me, is also remarkable and speaks to the pedigree of low miles.
Totally. There was another Roadster that sold, again, on our matchmaking site about a year and a half or so ago. It was VIN number 13 with 894 miles. And that one sold for close to $300,000. So there's certain things that definitely will trigger a collector to purchase a Roadster, and low mileage is one of them. So I talked to the owner. We talked about presenting this car on our matchmaking site after this ad expires, which it did. No one picked it up for $84,500. It's now sitting out on our Roadster matchmaking site for $119,000, and with the story attached, which is, this is a diamond in the rough car. And the reason I use that phrase is these pictures that came with this car are not professionally done. They're, done by someone with a cell phone, the owner. The car was not highly detailed, cleaned, paint correction. None of that was done. In fact, one of the original pictures actually has some cobwebs hanging off the front of the grill. So in my mind, this car epitomizes the notion of diamond in the rough. And it's now out there on our matchmaking site. If you're interested, contact us. We'll get you in touch with the seller. Again, our Roadster matchmaking is completely free to both buyer and seller. And we spend a lot of time answering questions, providing tech support, helping with the accounting functions.
Yes. A couple things that I saw when I saw that this did not sell on eBay. First, we promoted this last week while it was still up on eBay. I'm a little surprised it didn't sell then.
Right.
Second, I'm really glad we're going to have a chance to help this person sell their car. We're going to be able to get our list of over 400 qualified buyers aware of this particular vehicle. Many of them probably weren't totally aware, because while eBay is one of the largest auction sites in the world, and it's a great way to move motors in general, it's not necessarily the best way to move something as specialty as this.
Right. I spoke to the seller this morning, and we talked about the fact that it's he approved the listing.
Yeah.
That's the first thing we do. And I told him that after this podcast, we will notify all of the pre-qualified sellers that this car is now available again for sale.
Good. That's really good. And this just proves again, we are more effective here at Gruber Motors at helping to put the buyers and sellers together so that they can work out the deals that they want to work out than just about anybody else in the industry right now.
And we also consider ourselves valuation experts now, because if you look at our Roadster matchmaking site, there are well over 50 that have sold, and of course another 30 or 40 or so that are for sale. So we see a lot of Roadster traffic, more than any auction site I can think of out there on
Right.
the globe. And so you can get a pretty good idea of what comp values would be based on that. Excuse me. We've got some questions coming in. Looks like Instagram. Zage Nurazart. I hope I pronounced that correctly. He says, hello from EV and Convert Repair. EV Repair and Convert from Sweden. Welcome.
Good morning and good evening to you. It's 7 o'clock there.
And then YouTube, Tamil Status 2K says, hi, welcome.
Good morning.
Looks like Smuggler sent us a gift. Thank you, Smuggler. He's one of our regulars.
Love seeing you back on the show, Smuggler. And TikTok, Andrew says, isn't the 2.0 the most sought after, and is this one? Talking to you about the Roadster.
In the world of car collecting, it typically the oldest or the first generation cars they become the most valuable. Like the Lamborghini Miura, it's not a great body style in my opinion, but that's the one everybody wants. It's rare. It was one of the first ones.
Yeah.
In the world of Roadsters, they weren't manufactured or produced that long. 2008 to 2011 in U.S., 2012 in Europe. So we see interest in all of the various types. Excuse me, I have to keep clearing my throat here. The 1.5s, the popular ones there are the signature cars. Oops, it looks like we're restarting. Okay, all right, little glitch there. So the signature 100s, those are becoming more, the prices on those are increasing more rapidly than the other ones. On the other end of the spectrum, you have your 2.5 Roadsters, which have a different front grille on them, and some people like that better. And then you have option cars. Does it have executive leather? Does it have a lot of carbon fiber trim on the car? You know, what was the MSRP on that car? What was the build sheet? What did it say? And those cars tend to run higher. And then, of course, finally, you have low mileage. And with extremely low mileage like this, typically people aren't too focused on, is it a 1.5, 2.0, or 2.5? They're more focused on the fact that they have a low mileage car.
Right. That low mileage car is almost like driving a new car because, I mean, you look at it, if it becomes somebody's daily driver, you're going to turn 1,488 miles into 2,996 miles or whatever, double the miles within about a month to 2 months.
Right. Which is probably something else we should talk. Boy, it's that time of year, guys. I get sick probably once every 2 years or so. And, but anyway, I apologize for all of the coughing and throat clearing that I'm doing. The value of the Roadsters, of course, will change and continue to go up. They have been recognized as the first car that really started the EV revolution. And unlike most other car brands where it takes decades for them to become collectible, the Roadster, we fast-tracked that a bit because there was no precedent. The Roadster was the first mass-produced electric vehicle that's still around. The EV1 was obviously the first, but they're all crushed. And the 1908 Bakers in New York, I mean, those are in museums nowadays.
Yeah. So Trucker Alistair has joined us here on YouTube. Good morning, Trucker, and it's good to have you back. He says, it's nice to see you guys all again. And Pete, does the Roadster parking brake on the gearbox have a hook like the old automatic gearbox, spring load, or electric? Thinking of bypassing it through a wiring diagram. Just my thoughts on the old days.
Good question. It's called a parking pawl. And I just realized I have never seen one taken apart to see precisely how that engages to lock that transaxle. It could mechanically be removed, certainly, and what we do is we use actually software to tell it to release, basically, and it's a CAN signal that you have to send to it. Um, but that's a good question. Yeah, I'm going to ask the guys when I get over to the shop.
And if any of the guys in the shop happen to be watching, because we do sometimes have this playing on one of the TVs there, chime in, guys. Help us answer the question.
Right, absolutely. YouTube, Michael Aldia, welcome. And he says, happy belated birthday, Pete. Well, thank you for joining us. And, Michael can probably answer some of these Roadster questions. He was there during the early Roadster days and was working on the batteries. Yeah.
And on Facebook, Wendy Tang, the GM at Wings Signs, says, good morning. And good morning, Wendy, and welcome.
Welcome. One of the news items we have here, and maybe this is a good time to do it. Today is Elon Musk's birthday. He was born in 1971, and he was born in Pretoria, South Africa. So what we thought we would do this morning is sing him a birthday song. You guys ready? Got your sunglasses on? All right.
I think we're ready.
On a count of three.
Whose idea was this?
It was their idea. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Elon. Happy birthday to you. And somebody pointed out that your gift, Elon, is going to be a session on our podcast.
That's right.
Yay, 52 years young.
Yes.
I have an IT background. I'm an old programmer. I learned that Elon, when he was 10, got a Commodore VIC-20 and learned how to program it. And then at 12 years old, being the entrepreneur that he is, so this is 1983 about, he sold a video game, Blastar, to a magazine for $500.
Amazing.
That is pretty amazing. That tells me that he was an entrepreneur from an early age.
And you know what? The other thing that's inspiring is his mom, May. She recognized the talent early on. They were poor. At that point in time, at least, I'm not sure there was any kind of child support, and she was struggling to make ends meet. There was no furniture in the house at this point, except for just bare Spartan things. And but she thought it was important enough to get Elon a computer.
I thought that's a very cool story.
Everybody should have a mom like that, guys, right?
Everybody should.
All right, so we're talking about Tesla service centers. As you know, they have been trimming them in the United States. It's called regionalizing, and it makes perfect sense because with the few Roadsters that they see at the service centers, they're not able to maintain staff that's fully trained, so they're consolidating. And in California currently, Long Beach has become a Roadster hub, which is in the Orange County section. And then up north, San Rafael has become a Roadster hub. And these are the places that you'll want to take your Roadster if you have any issues. What we'll try to do is collect other regions and report them to you here because we have an audience that is, Roadster related, and it would be nice for us to stay on top of where the Roadster service options are. And of course, in the meantime, there are independents like us that are cropping up that are beginning to offset the lack of service options for the Roadster.
Well, and for example, here in Arizona, in the Phoenix metro area, the Tempe, Arizona Service Center is the one that works on Roadsters.
Absolutely, and they just consolidated that as well. It used to be Scottsdale and Tempe, and now all of the Roadster service is being done at Tempe, which, by the way, we work closely with those guys. They're wonderful. There's collaboration, and again, the customer and the community benefits when there's that level of cooperation.
Absolutely. Lightning Rod on YouTube says, hello from Thunder Bay, and happy birthday, Elon.
Definitely.
LinkedIn, Wendy Tang also says, happy birthday to Musk. So sounding, she says.
Yeah. So another item here is we get our information regarding the 3.0 batteries quite a bit from customers, in that as customers have communication with Tesla, that information is oftentimes shared with us. And we've heard now from a couple of sources that the Tesla 3.0 replacement battery pack for the Roadster has about an 8-month lead time. But the good news is they are saying that they are increasing production or continuing to increase production on that.
That's great news for the Roadster community. And I like to think that this has turned into a fairly small but a good revenue stream for them. These batteries are $30,000 a pop. They're they've been at anywhere from 6 months to as much as a year, going on for almost a year and a half now. So there's a consistent demand for them to be able to put these together. I'd like to think that we had a small part in this, being able to communicate both with the Roadster community themselves and with the right people in Tesla to get this going.
Yeah, we're constantly telling them how important it is to keep the Roadster service alive and keep that car functioning. And I think one of the things that really helped was a couple of years ago we started a Roadster census program where we allowed Roadster owners to register their Roadster, because up until that time, no one was really sure how many Roadsters were left. Not even Tesla.
Right.
They would wait for them to show up at the service centers, but what that census program has done, it has demonstrated that there is a large community out there. We have almost 2,000 Roadsters that are registered at this point. And, it's not 100% accurate. There are some duplications in there. When a car exchanges hands, for example, sometimes both owners are still out there and eventually get weeded out. But still, 2,000 with some error factor is a substantial amount of cars. And it convinces, we believe, Tesla that they need to continue support.
Yes.
Real quick, Pete.
Yeah.
Wendy Tang is asking on LinkedIn. Seems like there's a smaller audience over there on LinkedIn. Wendy, if you want to go to our YouTube channel, you'll see other comments there as well. We're live on about 7 different platforms.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Jesse, for bringing that up. Wendy has asked us, the question specifically was only 6 people here, which would be Pete, you, me, Jesse, Richard, Aaron is 5, and Wendy is 6. She says, I just see my own comments. How about others? We are on several platforms, including Facebook, YouTube, which is our main channel, Instagram, of course, LinkedIn, which is what she was coming in on.
Twitter.
We're on Twitter. We're
couple
on
of Twitters, couple of YouTubes.
Yeah, we're on TikTok
Instagram,
as well. So we get a pretty good viewing audience overall. LinkedIn is, I think, one of our smaller channels, though.
Growing. So in Toronto, we have a Tesla Roadster up there that is getting bricked. And working with Tesla on this, it turns out that Tesla is going to use a recovery charger on this car to bring it back to life, which, of course, is what we've been doing for years. In the early days, Tesla had a number of these recovery chargers built for the service centers, and they were able to, if you bricked your car, to recover it. As the years went on, some of the recovery chargers went into disrepair. The cable assemblies were frayed. The strain reliefs were compromised, and they're kind of like the PEM. They have replacement parts, relays, contactors, and electrolytic capacitors. So a couple of years ago or so, Tesla sent us some for refurbishing, which is what we did. We rebuilt them for them, and we sent them back out. And it looks like they're beginning to use those again. One of the stipulations, however, with that charger, with that Tesla recovery charger, because it's pretty much automated, there isn't much human intervention, is that the ESS pack string voltage, and a string voltage is the entire voltage of the pack, which is normally around 400 volts, needs to be 198 volts or higher for this recovery charger to be able to bring this battery back to life. This particular one in Toronto, at least first pass with a laptop, registered 145 volts DC, which is still within the range of our capability to recover it. But since they had some problems with the laptop, this Friday they're going to do a different laptop and try to confirm what that actual string voltage is. It may be that the car has to come to us, but at this point we're supporting Tesla and hoping that they'll be able to recover it up there in Toronto.
Yeah, I'm glad that we're able to partner with Tesla on this. I know that one of our engineers has been on the phone with them a couple different times. If it does have to come across the border, I know we had that catch-22 of You can't send something through customs as a car unless it drives, and you can't send a car.
Yeah, it's a nightmare.
You,
of
you
red
have
tape.
to repair the car before you send it, but you're sending it so you can repair it, type of thing. But we got around that. We have figured out the method to do it, so I know that we can if we need to. Why don't you take and read that Trucker Alistair comment to us?
Okay, here we go. Trucker Alistair from YouTube. He says, "Happy birthday, nachträglich, Pete." And on that birthday song, Elon will call you, LOL. Maybe. Maybe he'll join our podcast. Yes.
Yes, I remember Trucker is one of the ones that speaks German, so I could not pronounce the German word that he had.
Well, he's saying belated. My birthday was actually Sunday, the 25th.
Oh, okay.
Jesse and I were in here doing an AI podcast, and I knew that Elon was right around my birthday, which is the 28th now. There's a 20-year difference between us. He was born in 71. I was born in 51, so I could be his father, I suppose.
Yeah, you'd have been a young father, right? You could be his father, yeah.
Actually, my son, Tim, we had him when I was 19. I got married very young. I do not recommend that, by the way, to anyone. You need everybody's laughing over there.
Back when you were 19 was not young to get married.
Yeah, I suppose, but you know what? I had no clue what it was like or what was required to be a father. I was still a kid. I wanted to play, go out and hunt and hang out with my friends and a child. Oh my God, changing diapers. This is way too much maintenance, right? Right. There's Richard.
That's right, Pete.
Can we pop up a picture, Jesse? It is a picture called Latch-2.
Okay, and by the way, I think that is Wendy that made it over to YouTube. Welcome to YouTube.
Oh, yeah, welcome. Thank you for joining us there.
Latch 2?
Yes, Latch-2.
Yeah, that's actually good. If you lean back like that, it helps.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not coughing into the microphone. Thank you. All right, so that is a Ford latch. And back in the day when they were building Tesla Roadsters, Lotus and Tesla did the smart thing, which is rather than try to build every custom part for that car, they would go out and look at the industry and say, what's readily available? Things like AC compressors, for example. Wheel vendors, lug nuts. If you're building a car, you attempt to use what's already been in production. The Model S, for example, with the window regulators, that's an Antiva part. Why create your own? These guys have been doing it for, since the last century. Well, anyway, this is a Ford latch that is used in the Tesla Roadster. There is 2 of these in the rear trunk and 2 of them in the front. And as they're aging, they're becoming worn out, they're breaking, and we're having a heck of a time finding this part. So we're actually doing this for us and Tesla. If anyone knows a good source for these parts, and we're not talking used because, that would be fine for the end users, but
right.
Someone like Tesla is going to need to have brand new parts to put in their to put into SKUs in their inventory. We're reaching out to the community. Help us with this. If you know a good source for these, between us and Tesla, we're ready to buy 60 to 100 sets of these. And again, it would help the Tesla community as these things fail. If everything else fails and we're unable, and this is truly an obsolete part that's never to be remanufactured, we've got our machine shop poised and ready to recreate this part. But that, of course, is the last ditch effort because it raises the cost of that part tremendously.
But it's not that we haven't done exactly that before. When we, on some of the fans that go into the PEMs, we've actually had our machine shop assist us with creating some of the assemblies that go into those fans.
Right, the custom mounting plate, and then we combine it with a Spall fan, and we basically recreated the original part.
Right.
So, yeah, if anyone has any suggestions or ideas, wait a minute, Michael's coming in with YouTube. He says, there was a one time of an apprentice tech soldered the capacitor boards in the recovery charger. Oh, okay. All right. But he put all the caps in backwards. Oh, my God. These are large electrolytic caps. One of the engineers came to use it, and the caps exploded. They will do that, by the way, just like a battery will if you connect it backwards and then feed current into it. He says, I didn't know that engineer could jump that high. Luckily, it only damaged the board and not the rest of the recovery charger. Good story, Michael. Thanks for
Wow,
sharing.
that's quite the story from your time in Tesla.
And I think I know who that engineer was, but I won't mention the name. YouTube EV fan says, best talk show on the tube. Well, thank you.
Well, that's
Thank you.
up above. Wendy had said it's like you two have your own talk show.
Yeah. Well, we've been called the Tappet Brothers.
Or the Click and Clack.
Click and Clack. And I guess they're off the air now. Someone just told me that last week, I think. But while they were on the air, they used to be on NPR. That's where I would listen to them if I had time. And they were on 600 radio stations. They had over 1 million viewers. So maybe we'll get to that size someday.
That'd be cool if it did. And, if it doesn't happen, that's cool too.
Yeah. We like our audience. Okay, so yeah, anybody that can help. The part number on that part, by the way, the Tesla part number is 200-3704, and they call it a cable tailgate release.
On Instagram, Chang STR says, back in the days, a car around 4,000 pounds would be considered heavy. These days, I notice that EVs are ranging from 5,000 to 7,000 pounds. Any comments?
It's the battery.
Totally the battery.
Yeah.
The Cybertruck I've heard is going to have a curb weight up around 9,000 pounds.
Wow.
And there's been talk about the fact that if you put too many EVs into a concrete garage structure, you could end up compromising the structure, because they were built around and engineered around the idea that a car that comes in is not going to be more than about 4,000 pounds. The bigger cars, a Ford Excursion is a great example of the massive SUV. Ford made them for a couple years. It has a curb weight of about 6,700 pounds and is typically too tall to fit in many garage structures. And yet a Model S, I think, has a curb weight of close to 5,000 pounds by itself.
With a 1,200-pound battery, yeah. So you subtract that, and you're back to normal ICE.
Yeah,
That's one of the things that we get as well. Is that could be. We hear that from detractors of EVs, that it's going to ruin roads because of how heavy all the cars are going to be in the next 5 to 10 years. My vote on that would be we need to rebuild the roads anyway with inductive coupling. So
right. And there's another issue here too, which is that as battery technology continues to improve and power densities improve, this weight issue will become non-existent at some point. Right now, we need that weight in order to go that 200 or 300 miles that everyone's demanding.
Yeah, I can definitely see in a generation, in 15, 20 years, that the EVs are actually lighter than most other cars.
Yeah.
Because they'll have a supplemental battery that is maybe 50 kilowatts. And that supplemental battery will be half or less than half of the weight of our current batteries. And they'll be equipped with the ability to pick up a charge inductively, whether parked or when driving. And they'll have some sort of solar on the car as well, whether it's integrated into the paint job of the car itself or whether it's separate, like the Aptera. And you'll find that you're only charging the car maybe once a month when you're going on, or when you're going on long trips.
Right. In an ICE car, you have an engine, especially a big block, that's going to weigh quite a bit, and then you have a transmission, which is also pretty heavy. So yeah, but yeah, you're right. I think EVs will eventually be lighter, so it's a short-term problem. Looks like we've got an Instagram comment from Chengster. He says, "Back in the day."
that's the one. You
That's the one we just read. Okay.
read.
YouTube Tash Tang. There we go. He says, "I am new to such a live, but not the same kind like the one in TikTok. I don't know much about motors, but come for Pete." Well, thank you. It is a talk to discuss Tesla Roadster. This morning, yes, we're actually trying to focus on Tesla Roadster issues. So some of the news items we have will be related to that.
Yeah, the podcasts that we have on Tuesdays and Thursdays at the same time, 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, are more of a general EV talk. And you can also join the Gruber Power Services Power Hour on Fridays at 10. And then Pete and Jesse's hobby, which is to do podcasts on Sundays at 10 o'clock in the morning. And that one discusses artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Yes. So there is a Tesla Roadster currently for sale in Hawaii. It is at a car dealership, and it is a flood damaged Tesla Roadster. And I didn't bring up a picture, Jesse. Is it possible for you to go to eBay and pop that up so we can see a picture
So
of
I'm
that
just
car?
looking for the one that's in Hawaii for sale on eBay, you said?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, it's
give me
on
a
eBay.
sec. I'll
All
find
right.
that.
Now, the reason I brought this up is a lot of people now are looking for Tesla Roadsters, and they're looking for bargains, and they're looking for restoration candidates, which will help their entry into a Roadster be less painful than full price.
Right.
This particular car is a flood damaged car, and unlike most cars at auction that are flood damaged, they haven't detailed this one. What they'll typically do is put it through the car wash, clean it up, get all the mud off it, clean the interior, shine it up, and it's very difficult to see the extent of damage. And the reason we know this is we bought 22 Tesla Model S's in 2017 between the hurricanes in Florida and Texas.
Right.
And we got winners and losers, and some of them look pristine and clean, and then you go inside and you find out this has been a saltwater damaged car. The wiring harnesses are all corroded, and they made it look pretty clean and shiny,
Yes.
which fooled us into buying the car. This particular car, fortunately, they did not go through this detailing process, but I wanted to give everybody some tips on what to look for or watch out for with a flood damaged car. The first thing about a Roadster, by the way, is not everything is waterproof in that Roadster. You have things underneath the front hood, like the HVAC controller. The battery, typically, is not completely waterproof. The charge port door. And, of course, the power electronics module, which could get water ingress depending on how long it was submerged. The things to look for, and since this is a dealer that most likely can be contacted, which helps you enormously, because if it's an auction house, they know nothing about the history of the car. In this case, if you talk to the seller, the dealer, the questions to ask would be, what was the extent of submersion? Based on the pictures that I saw, this thing had water in the cabin all the way to the top. What kind of water? This is critical. Was it freshwater? If it's freshwater, then you're not going to have the extent of damage because it's not as conductive as salt water. Salt water will basically start a electroplating process inside the car, removing metals and placing them somewhere else. Corrosion on your circuit boards, on your connectors, it destroys things. If it was freshwater and it was brief, then it won't be as severe. Do one more throw clear.
Yeah, and we've even seen Teslas that have come with freshwater damage that the car was not in the water long enough to be really damaged at all. We were able to simply clean up the car, and the electronics were not compromised at all because the freshwater was not so polluted such that it became
No, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Conductive.
Yeah, we had one in Ohio, and we bought it as a flood damaged car. We found that it was minimal repairs, just cleaning some relays. And it turns out that this car was being driven down a road, a flash flood occurred, and the water briefly crested over the hood, but got inside the relay fuse block that's on top of a Model S.
Yes.
And as the water got in there, of course, it began to rearrange some signals, and the car said, whoops, time out, I'm going to shut down. That was an easy repair. I think my wife drove that for a year and a half. We bought it from the company.
Yeah, I remember
that was
that's the first car you guys bought from the company, and there's that wasn't the only one that we had like that. We had a white car that a gentleman had I think had given to a valet to park, and they took off with it instead of parking it, ended up driving it into a ditch full of water.
That was a New Orleans car, yeah.
Yeah, the New Orleans car. And when we got it, the car itself and the electronics had dried out to the point that we were able to drive it off the transport trailer.
Exactly. And we thought, score, we got a great car here,
Yeah. So
Pete, there's 0 listings on eBay, so I'm not sure if it was removed or what happened, but I can't find it anywhere.
Okay, it probably sold then. Well, I'll just continue to talk about it then. The other thing you have to look for is, even if it was in a clean water area where there's storms, where there was storm surges, and salt water migrated inland. Then you've got a different issue. That's brackish water, which is like salt water.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, how long was it submerged? Was it a brief flash flood or was it days? What we've also done to corroborate any stories that we got was to look at the weather reports around the time that this car was totaled, and you can see what kind of weather conditions were prevalent in that area that might have created this kind of a loss.
Oh, yeah. We learned that from some of our 2017 purchases. There were a number of cars that originated in Houston. And this was at the time that Hurricane Harvey came through, dropped over 4 feet of precipitation over the course of about 48 hours. And we picked up, I think it was 6 or 7 cars from there. But it was a decent thing to be able to get those cars. We knew they were going to be freshwater.
Right. And one final thing with a car like this, this is in Hawaii. And if you're looking to bring this car into the United States, there's a huge amount of cost and red tape involved.
Mm-hmm.
It's a massive gamble. My personal opinion is I would not touch this car based on what the car looks like on the inside. There was water everywhere, basically.
Yeah, most definitely. Hey, we have a couple of comments that have come in. TZ was talking about the weight of electric vehicles on TikTok, and says it's heavy and a little bit smoother than gasoline. Also, TZ says, I would like to open a Tesla repair shop.
Interesting. Okay. A lot of people want to do that around the world and are contacting us about franchise opportunities. And at this point, we just don't have a program available.
Yeah, it's hard to just keep up with the level of work that we have coming in. I know for our Model S's, we still have a wait list. On TikTok, Carter's Golden Times comments, I think this is about the trunk latch. Says you can find another one that's close to it. It does not necessarily have to be 100% exact.
Our procurement people, actually, this morning, we spoke about that.
Yeah.
And they're now chartered with going out and finding something similar. And we can turn that over to the machine shop to make custom brackets if necessary.
Sure. And honestly, the talent of our procurement people is off the charts. They recently found Yazaki connector. Am I saying that right?
Exactly.
That we didn't think existed anymore. And they managed to find the original manufacturer of it somewhere in Europe, and they were able to get information to us on that. So
this is for the Tesla Roadster 2.0 HVAC unit that sits underneath the front. And there's a company in Switzerland that is able to make new ones, but they need those connectors. So we were able to source those for them.
YouTube Lightning Rod says, as the money turns, the avalanche of battery innovation will increase compared to the last 100 years. It is alarmingly fast. In fact, kind of suspicious. You know, Lightning Rod, I have to agree with you there. Battery technology from 1860, when Voltaire invented the lead acid battery, all the way up to about in the late 1970s. There were 110 years there where batteries were batteries were batteries. Yeah, you had the little alkaline batteries or the square 6-volt batteries. There was some change to that, but it was kind of batteries or batteries. Then the nickel cadmium rechargeable battery hit in the United States at least. And that started the steps toward what has become a real battery revolution.
Sure. And, you know, there's another interesting story about that. Sometimes innovation is spawned by changes in regulation.
Yeah.
The FAA, and I think it was in the 70s in the last century, began to mandate that you can no longer have wet cells in airplanes because of the sulfuric acid eating through the fuselage, creating safety issues, which spawned a whole new way of making batteries called gel cells. And this is a maintenance-free sealed battery with a thick jello-like type electrolyte, sulfuric acid in a jello-type material, which later on became absorbent glass mat technology, which is what's now used in the critical power world in data centers. Again, you don't want venting because when a wet cell vents and charges, it's releasing hydrogen gas, which is explosive.
Right.
And of course, maintenance free. You don't want, acid spilling in your data center anywhere. So oftentimes it's innovation and changes in regulation and demand definitely generates innovation and makes changes in the industry.
By all means, I think the technology demand for laptop computers really helped drive a revolution in battery technology as well.
Mm-hmm.
On TikTok, Carter's Golden Times talks about another issue here is that you don't respond. And then Eric does push-ups, ADHD edition on TikTok responds to him saying they're running like 4 streams at once or something.
Well, actually, we're running more than that, but the questions as they're popping up, we're trying to get to them, guys. So bear with us. We'll try to get through them all today.
Yeah, I think we'll try to get through all of them. YouTube, Jalopy247, it says, hey, just buy a Miata, people. It's a much better car that's actually engineered well.
A Miata.
Yeah, Mazda Miata. As
Little tiny
humans,
car.
we should be able to fix our own car. We should not have to pay engineers to fix capacitors and have proprietary code. My first take on this, Pete, and I'll start here. And the Mazda Miata in its current edition, the current evolution, has a lot of that proprietary code in it. It doesn't matter if it's an ICE vehicle, your combustion engine vehicle, or if it is your newer electric vehicle. If your car has that onboard diagnostic version 2 port or the OBD2 port, it is running a CAN bus with proprietary code and signals going across it. Typically, it's based on either a Unix or a Linux platform. That is not common or not limited just to electric vehicles.
And the complexity of working on cars. I was fortunate to grow up during the muscle car era, and those cars were just dirt simple to work on. I remember pulling a 4-speed 833 tranny out of a Mopar, a 69 Plymouth Roadrunner, and setting it on my chest, on my creeper, to get it out from underneath the car. And then I took the whole thing apart. I fixed those synchro rings, and you could do stuff like that back then. But the complexity of vehicles has increased enormously, and then finally, to that point, they're going to be banning ICE production by 2035 in a number of places around the planet, and those cars are going away. There's nothing we can do to prevent that or stop that.
No, there's the government is pushing us in a direction that. While I support the idea of less pollution, it is definitely a government push and not just a completely open free market. People are resisting the change. I've worked on cars for many years now. It was born out of necessity as much as anything, although I can still remember my dad teaching me how to pack wheel bearings on our 76 Chevy. It was the Silverado edition, but it was their C1500. It was a fun thing to do.
It was a father and son bonding experience, and it taught you skills that stay with you the rest of your life because you're not heavily dependent on mechanics.
Absolutely. Probably the biggest thing he taught me was that I don't have to be afraid of it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if I don't know exactly how to do it. You can just get it done, and you don't have to be afraid of this great big 4,000-pound monster that you think that you're looking at.
Taking anything apart is part of the education.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I just got to say real quick, too, I
Yeah.
love the name Jalopy 247.
Oh,
Great-
there we
great
go.
name.
Yeah.
Yes.
Lightning Rod says, gas is finished, friend. We can't continue to burn fossil fuels. That should be apparent to you by now. Well, the planet is suffering from all of this introduction of additional carbon into the environment, and electric cars are definitely beginning to improve things. The question is, will it be quickly enough?
That's a fair question.
There are, I wanted to bring up, so this conversation between Lightning Rod, a gentleman by the name of Ryan, and Jalopy went on for some time. There were several points that were valid on both sides. Jalopy wanted to, one of his concerns that he raised in his original comment is the complexity and the ability to repair on an owner basis. He also went on to talk about how electricity prices are going to increase and have already, claiming that it's past the point of gas. I just wanted to bring to his attention Aptera. Right, they're running their whole base is about user ability to repair. Right, they're not going to have service centers. They're not going to have anything like that. They're going to have the owners properly supported to be able to repair their own vehicles. So there's the complexity part in being able to repair it. Right, then there's the fact that it's solar powered. Right, you're not going to rely on the grid or anything like that, and you won't have to pay for it.
Right.
I'm a big proponent of right to repair. And when I'm working on an ICE vehicle, if my my AC compressor goes out, I'm going to take my compressor down to the O'Reilly or to the AutoZone or to the Pet Boys or the Shucks or wherever as auto store. I'm going to give them that as a core, and I'm going to get another one back, plug it back in, and I'm going to have air conditioning when all is said and done. I would love to see something like that eventually get to the EV space, get away from you have to have an engineering degree and be able to do component level board repairs. That's going to be a long time though.
Yeah.
Before that happens.
Well, I've heard Tesla be compared to Apple, right? They're the Apple of car companies. So says others, right? We're just waiting on the PC, right? We're waiting on the Windows of EV companies,
Sure.
Right? Where you can, and this idea has been tossed around. I don't know if there are any companies doing it, where it's like, you'd go to a quote Fry's Electronics. Right, I'm like, okay, I want this drive unit. I want this power electronics module. I want this chassis. I want this, and this, and you can build out your own car.
Completely modular.
Right.
Yeah. So hopefully something like that is coming around.
The closest thing I think that to that concept you just discussed is the EV conversion market. It's ripe for a plug-and-play package that allows like you said, the owner to put a kit together for their conversion. And, now the complexity, I think, is going to be reduced somewhat because in order to make it plug and play, they're going to have to remove all those obstacles. To do a Tesla Model S swap, for example, drivetrain swap, you have a firmware reload. You can't do a firmware reload unless you have a subscription to their software package, Toolbox. And it gets really complicated. The guy working in his backyard isn't going to be able to do that.
Yeah, and I saw we had from a little over a week ago somebody could talk to us a little bit about Goshen batteries or the company Goshen. I didn't get a lot of information about them right away, but then saw something in the press yesterday about Goshen is putting together a brand agnostic battery pack. They're working potentially with VW first, but they're going to be putting together a manufacturing facility right in the heart of the auto belt in central Michigan. And I think it's an exciting development.
Love it. In the mainframe world, computer mainframe world in the last century, in the 70s actually, disk drives were evolving. They were going from an open type tray and, to sealed Winchester type disk drives, which is where the industry eventually went. You couldn't open your disk anymore. And there was a company that recognized an opportunity to make these sealed drives for a number of different brand manufacturers, from Digital to IBM to Burroughs to Wang, all of those. And what they developed was an emulation package that replicated the signals that brand of computer was looking for from that disk drive.
Yeah.
And it became highly successful. They basically took the market. I remember the salespeople at Digital complaining bitterly. I can't believe that whatever his name was, John Doe, was in my account again. And of course, he took the business because his cost was so much lower than mine, and he got the discs for that mainframe sale that I just did.
Yep.
I think that will happen with cars too.
It's just a matter of time.
One more thing real quick too on the repair stuff. Hold on, let me switch my camera. Just for us, Pete, as a plug for our AI, how Mark had mentioned people think you have to have an engineering degree to do some of this work on these EVs. I think AI is going to help us with a lot of that.
Oh,
All that kind of stuff is going to be taken care of for us in a lot of cases, to where I don't think there's a reason to fear repairing these vehicles in the future.
excellent segue. My next topic.
Yeah.
I sat there one day and I looked at a Tesla Roadster error code. And I thought to myself, we have an internal knowledge base that has been growing and expanding based on errors that we're finding in the Tesla Roadsters or the Tesla Model S. And of course, that will continue to build. So then I thought, you know what? I'm going to take my laptop. Let me type that into ChatGPT-4. And my question was, what does error code 262 refer to in a Tesla Roadster? It took about 10 seconds or so, and what it spit out was, the error code 262 in a Tesla Roadster refers to a BSM immersion fault. BSM stands for Battery System Management. However, without more context, it's hard to tell exactly what an immersion fault means. It could possibly be related to an issue with immersion, and then it goes on and on and on, but it correctly identified water ingress in the battery pack. And there was a paradigm shift that occurred with me just then. We have our own knowledge base that we're developing and growing.
Yep.
Well, AI is the sum total of all human knowledge and all, data. That would be a knowledge base that would be far better served for this type of application.
Well, especially you can ask it a natural language question. It's going to give you a natural language answer back. And if you're not the high-end engineer who already knows the information, it even defines these terms
Exactly.
for you.
I was just going to say that it explains the answer to you. It doesn't just give you the cheat codes.
Right.
It breaks it down so you can understand it.
It kind of reminds me of a guy is flying over a meadow in the mountains in a hot air balloon, and he sees this other guy having a picnic in the middle of the meadow, and he says, "I'm lost. Can you help me?" And the guy looks up at the guy in the balloon and says, "Well, sure, I can help you. Well, what do you need?" "Well, I need to know where am I?" And the guy on the ground responds, "Well, you're in a balloon in the middle of a meadow in the mountains." And then suddenly it becomes the guy in the meadow who gets the blame.
Okay.
He said exactly where you're at,
Yeah.
but it had no context and was no help at all.
Right.
So many things that we read about in service manuals and stuff effectively do that exact same thing.
Yep. So what I envisioned immediately was, they talk about a 10x improvement in productivity using AI. It's readily apparent that that's the case. A mechanic next to his toolbox would have a laptop and be able to ask questions like this. And eventually it would be verbal. "Hey Siri, hey Google, hey AI, what do I do? What does this error code mean?" And it begins to train, educate, and isolate and help, do fault recognition and diagnosis and repair.
Well, and that voice recognition's already in place. I have on my computer at home and have had for a couple of years voice recognition. I just don't have my microphone hooked up right now. And it's just would be a short thing to go from the Windows provided voice recognition module into ChatGPT and be able to say, "Open ChatGPT, ask this question."
Right.
The question will go into ChatGPT and then it would talk back to me.
Pete, real quick.
Yeah.
Your phone activated and we could hear it when you said, "Hey Siri." So you might check your phone real quick.
Oh, okay. It's gone now. Yes, you're right. Technology is wonderful, isn't it? It's so obedient. I have my phone down here.
It is always listening, Pete.
It's always listening.
So TZ on TikTok says, "Everything is replaceable. We'll need service maintenance for future life and vehicles." Yes, that is definitely true.
YouTube Lightning Rod says, "What do you say?" He's talking about Jalopy 247, Aptera versus Miata.
And then Jalopy 247 replies to Lightning Rod and says, "I'll admit, it sounds promising. I could get on board with that."
Mm-hmm. Now remember, this is a car. If you're traveling under 40 miles a day, never needs to plug in. It never needs to charge. The solar panels on that car are going to give you all of the propulsion that you need up to 40 miles per day. And that's with today's technology. As photovoltaics improve, this is going to extend those drive times enormously.
Yeah, there continues to be chatter in the solar industry about materials that are in the lab that may be as much as 1,000 times more effective in capturing the signal than what they have today.
So another news item for you guys, or a topic for the Tesla Roadster discussion. Someone on a Facebook site pointed out that letters for the Tesla Roadster are impossible to find. Well, that is true on and off, apparently, because currently 2 customers piped up and said, I just bought a new set of Tesla letters, or letters from Tesla. And what we're talking about is the little chrome letters on the back of the car and a Roadster Sport, which is a script type decal. And so at this point, check with your Tesla service centers, because it looks like these 2 customers, and there's a picture of it. Hey, Jesse, can you pop up the picture of the letters, is what it's called?
Yep, one sec.
Now, there's a workaround. There's a Model 3 set of letters that say Tesla, which are slightly different bevel. But, if you're replacing them all, it's almost impossible to distinguish from the original Tesla to the Model 3. But there you have it. That one down below was impossible to find for years, and someone actually was able to get that at Tesla. So that's good news. Another item that came on a Facebook site, and it went something like this. This gentleman has a Tesla Roadster, and he's beginning to lose range. When a Tesla loses range each time it charges, what's happening is there is a resistive cell that is beginning to drain a brick. A brick is a collection of 69 cells, and they're all connected in parallel. So that resistive cell represents a load on that brick, and the battery safety management systems in the Roadster are constantly looking at the delta between bricks. There are 99 of those, and they want to make sure that they're all at the same voltage level. They're balanced, in other words. When you have a resistive cell, that changes, because now you have one that's going to be traditionally lower than the rest. I just realized when I look at myself in the monitor, I'm doing the wrong hand thing, and it freaks me out.
It's reversed. Yeah.
It's reversed, yes. So the question then became, he has a decline. It is declining each time he charges. And the question he posed was, I guess it's time to pull the service disconnect, which is the plug on a Tesla Roadster ESS pack that takes all of the external loads off the pack. And he asks, how much time does that buy me by pulling that? Well, the answer to that is absolutely none, because there are 2 ways that a Tesla Roadster battery pack will drain. One of them is from the external loads, which is your 12-volt systems, your VMS, your locks, the pumps that are cooling the battery constantly. The second one is if you have a resistive cell, it's going to drain that brick whether you've removed the external loads or not. So the answer there is the car needs to get to a service center quickly. It needs to have a battery drop. And what you don't want to do is get that brick down below 2 volts and have it spend any time there, because now you're going to damage the other 68 cells in that brick. And sheets and bricks are not replaceable. No one's selling them. They are not. They are repairable, but not if it spends any time below 2 volts.
Well, and we've seen through experience, we had that Roadster coming in from Florida where it was losing about 15% of its range every single day. And so when the lady put it onto the transport, she was able to drive it. When we got it off of the transport, the battery was already bricked. What was it, 5 days, I think it was, from the time that she had it on the transport until we received it here. And it had only been a week or less from her first contact until she had it on the transport.
Right. In that particular case was the worst resistive cell drain that we've seen. It was about 12 to 13 miles per charge, per day, actually, because she tried to charge it every day. Typically, resistive cells don't drain that quickly. It'll be more subtle. If you're used to charging your Roadster to 158 miles, it will eventually get 157 and then 156, and it may be every other charge or every charge, but you'll see a slower decline. So the question, how long does it take for this to die, is really relative to how bad that resistive cell is.
Excellent point. Excellent point.
Real quick, guys.
Yeah.
Richard has some info we got to insert that we missed on the Aptera part.
Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Jesse. So we talked about the solar panels adding up to 40 miles a day. That's not the limit to the range on the vehicle. You will have a battery in the vehicle that will charge up to 1,000 miles. I think is the top one that they have listed for sale, or that they have listed as intended to be produced. And so if you have that storage capability with a recharge of up to 40 miles a day with solar.
Oh, that's an excellent point. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not that the Aptera is a 40-mile car. It's that it's a 250 up to, you say, 1,000 miles, Richard?
And I think that's one of the
Yeah.
longest ones we see in an EV.
Yeah, that's what they're claiming on their website for the top tier.
Wow.
Good. Thanks for adding that. Yeah, because it's not just a 40-mile car. That's on solar without ever needing to plug in.
Okay, and then real quick, Pete, I don't know if you want to grab that stuff off the floor. We do have George here today.
Oh, we do.
Yeah,
Scroll that up, Richard.
George from Watch Richard Rebuild's channel has joined us. He was not here yesterday, but he sent us some stuff yesterday, and we did receive it. We want to, again, thank you, George, for sending this. I'll pull the bottles on if you want to describe what they are, Pete. First,
Sure.
we're going to have this particular guy right here.
And this was prompted by a customer that we had that had rodent damage in his Tesla Roadster. And George pointed out that there is a spray that you can get. It's called Mouse Out. And apparently it either makes it so distasteful for the mice or whatever rodents you have to go back into that space, or it's poisonous. We're not sure which. But he highly recommends this, and this has been used apparently to keep rodents out.
It does say that it's made with essential oils, so I think it might be a scent thing. It says it also repels rodents, and it's peppermint scented.
That reminds me of something. There was a rodent kit that I got one time that was actually tiger urine, and it would keep the small rodents away.
Yeah, this is going to smell a little bit better than tiger urine, I think. It does also say that it prevents rust, and in addition to working with the rodents. And then we had another one that George also sent us. Electro Wash is what this is called.
And this is a contact cleaner that we definitely use with electric vehicles. Back in the old days, those of you that had CRT type televisions, everything's flat screens now. But you had a tuner, and it was a mechanical device, and would go click, 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 and you got only 13 channels back then. And if you were
At
lucky,
best.
in your town, they might have a couple of TV stations, maybe 3 if it was really big, right? Well, these tuners were all mechanical rotary switches, contacts, and with time, they would get dust in them and debris, and it became, you would get static each time you went between channels. It was tuner cleaner, they called it, electro wash in this case, that we used to spray into those tuners that would clean things up and restore the functionality. George, thank you so much for sending this to us. He even put our pictures on the outside of the box here. There's me, and there's Mark. And he says here, under my picture, watch Gruber Motor Company channel, LOL.
So thank you very much, so much, George. We really appreciate that.
You responded, said, glad you like the stuff.
Yep. Guys, could you increase the font just one click? Because I'm having trouble with some of the words. Perfect. All right.
We have a comment. I'm going to skip to Michael Aldea's comment. Michael Aldea's come on YouTube and said, check out the iron air batteries that use the process of rusting to store a charge.
Wow.
That's pretty remarkable. He says there's flow batteries that flow electrolyte through the battery to charge the battery. Michael, it's almost become a hobby of mine to look at all the different technologies. So you can guarantee I'm going to take a further look at that. One of the more intriguing technologies I read about recently was a process of storing and generating electricity using the humidity in the air.
Really?
And so scientists have figured out how to simply filter through the humidity that's in the air and generate electricity in that manner. And it's virtually an unlimited energy source to be able to use.
That is amazing. You know what you just said was scientists have figured out how to?
Yeah.
In the future, we're going to be saying AI has figured out how to. One of the broadcasts Sunday actually is a medical breakthrough that apparently occurred by utilizing AI to help collect and disseminate and interpret large data sets, which is what it's suited for.
Well, and one of the things that the AI detractors talk about is that AI cannot generate new knowledge. While that may be true, it may be that AI is fixed in the amount of knowledge that it has. AI has the ability to synthesize knowledge and put together seemingly disparate pieces of knowledge in a manner that humans have not yet done. And is that not itself the creation of new knowledge?
Yeah, and that's the human process, is in interpreting data and then coming out with a solution or a new discovery.
Right. And so AI is going to be able to take that existing, it's simply from computer's standpoint, it's an if-then statement, and it's just taking a number of inputs, maybe billions of inputs, and coming up to an output that may be a logical conclusion from those inputs. And if the output is different than what a human has ever tried before, then that ends up being new knowledge.
Right, right. Looks like a bunch of questions coming in here. YouTube, Megan Kokona asks, guys, you just scrolled a little too high. There you go. Was Martin Eberhard involved in the design and engineering of the T0, which utilized a lithium-ion battery while collaborating with Tom Gage? I'm somewhat familiar with this because we had a T0, and I've spoken to Martin a number of times and Tom Gage. Martin became aware of the T0 after Al Caccione at AC Propulsion created the car, basically, and began test driving it, as did a number of other people eventually, because they took the first generation T0, which had 28 Optima spiral wound lead acid batteries, sealed batteries, and it could only go 80 miles, but it had a 0 to 60 performance of 4 seconds.
Right.
And they were close enough to Laguna Seca in California, which is a pretty well-known, prestigious track where exotic cars typically run. And people began to take note of this car that was embarrassing Lamborghinis, Ferraris, and McLarens. Well, Martin had just finished selling a company, and Mark Tarpening, an ebook business, and were flush with cash and looking to get into their next gig, which for Martin was sports cars, electric sports cars, because he loved sports cars. And he went to AC Propulsion. He looked at the car, was amazed, but decided 80 miles is not a car that will be able to be produced and, sustainable. So he was familiar with the 18650 cells that they were using in their ebook business. He called them laptop batteries at the time. So he commissioned them to convert one of the T0s to a lithium-ion pack car. And now the car, the 0 to 60 improved, and the range got closer to 400 miles. And now they knew they had a viable product that they could take to market, and that's what started Tesla. That's what prompted Mark and Martin to incorporate Tesla. And later on, Elon came along. He followed the same trajectory, according to legend. He heard about the T0. He went to AC Propulsion, asked them the same questions Mark and Martin did. Are you going to produce this car? They said, nope, we're an engineering firm. We're just interested in selling the components, the inverter, and the drivetrain. And he said, well, do you mind if I do it? And they told him, well, there are a couple guys already doing it. And that was the introduction to Mark and Martin Eberhard. For Elon, came in initially as a financial investor, and the rest is history. So there's the whole story, guys. It was probably a long one, but
well worth it.
Yeah, real quick, guys, just so you know, we have a good amount of questions to get through. We are at 1 hour and 16, though, just so you know.
All right.
Well, we'll start with some of the questions and comments. Instagram, SJV Tesla, a couple of laughing emojis, along with a couple of tigers.
The tiger emojis, yeah.
On TikTok, TZ says, I use fabric softener to keep the rodents away.
We've heard that before, TZ. Yeah, in fact, in the last podcast when we talked about that, that seems to be a fairly well-known solution that we were unaware of, but we're definitely going to try that.
Yes. Again, SJV Tesla on Instagram says, are you guys ever going to be able to come to Tesla Takeover? We've had Sandy Monroe for the past 2 years, and it would be great to have you guys come out.
Well, thank you for the invitation. And honestly, we have thought about it. It would be an appropriate forum for us to attend. So, yeah, the next one, I think we'll make it
I
a
looked
point.
it up. It's I think it's when you're on your vacation, unfortunately, Pete.
Oh, this next one coming up.
It's
That is
coming up
correct.
on
Yeah.
the 29th and 30th of July.
Yeah.
So
I
you're
didn't
going to
realize
be
that,
out
yeah.
of the country when that happens.
Well, we wish you the best. And, getting May on that program was definitely worthwhile. She is, probably one of the most influential EV persons other than Elon. And
Yeah, we're definitely open to it in the future, though.
yeah,
Definitely. Cyber Hooligan has come to us from Instagram and gives us a wave. Good morning, Cyber Hooligan.
yes, thank you for joining us. Hope everything's going well with that project. Watch Rich Rebuilds. That's George, actually. He always plugs the Rich Rebuilds channel. By the way, Rich Rebuilds' latest video came out with Robert Downey Jr. Yeah, and it's worth watching.
Definitely worth a watch.
He says, AI, we give the opportunity of aliens from another place to give us information and resolve problems without interacting with us directly. This is George's take. So is this their way of communicating with us without making a physical
concept.
presence? Could be, yes.
Yeah.
They just have to update the information to the AI system. All right.
Well, that's an interesting take.
Yeah.
Lightning Rod asks, what if we are that special and the only life we know is here on Earth?
Well, it's a great what if, yeah. We'll eventually dominate the universe if that's the case then, especially with AI. That would be my take on it, yeah.
Definitely. At some point. We'll start with Mars.
Yeah.
Quench Grace Hopper, like number 12, he says, I'm dropping in after an hour. Never too late to replay. Soon it's going to be too late to smash that thumbs up. The thumbs up, Crunch.
Yep,
Thanks for joining us.
Yep. YouTube, Michael Aldea. All right. He says Martin came up with the name Tesla Motors while at the Blue Bayou in Disneyland.
Oh, what a great nugget.
Did not know that. Yeah.
That's excellent. On TikTok, a user with a bunch of numbers after it asked the question, why does Tesla require so many repairs? A Tesla repair forum makes me question the design.
Well, the Tesla Roadster, and I'm trying to make this brief, was a prototype that was released before its time. And in actual practice, though, and I've owned many cars, by the way, lots. I don't want to bore you with all of them, but the Tesla Roadsters that I have are the lowest maintenance cars that I have ever owned. All of the EVs that I'm involved with are the lowest maintenance cars that we've been exposed to. Even in our fleet, the field engineer fleet, those things are constantly going for oil changes, tune-ups, front end alignments, on and on and on. The EV pool that we have, the Model S's, I'm just pleasantly surprised that we don't have issues.
Yeah, we never have. It seems like we never have issues with it. When you do find issues, when you do find something that's wrong on an EV, part of it, I think, is because electric vehicles are still, even after 20 years or 15 years, I guess, they're still a very new technology. And so the people who have questions on their cars tend to go out to the forums before they go to a service center. I'm finding that because I own a Volvo XC40 Recharge, and I see the same type of things with Volvo that I have seen with the Tesla. If I have a question about something, I'm not necessarily calling my Volvo dealer first.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going out to the forums because I can get a quicker answer that's probably as accurate or more accurate than what the dealer can give me.
Right.
And also may be able to give me that feeling of right to repair of, hey, I can get this piece taken care of by myself and not have to take my car in for warranty work and have it sit there for 3 weeks.
Sure. So here's, again, getting back to AI. AI will be digesting all the forums.
Yeah.
So in the future, we'll have one place to go.
Yes. Yes, and while I know ChatGPT 4 goes to May of 2021, Jesse, you might know when there's been an announcement, but I don't remember when or what it is that's going to scan the current content of the internet.
When you're talking about the next ChatGPT like crawl of the internet,
Yes.
yeah. So as of right now, the current cutoff date for ChatGPT is September 2021. People are thinking that with the next iteration, ChatGPT, either 4.5 or some 4 point something, or the 5.0 later this year, it'll be current. And right now, actually, our account has access to the beta, where it's actually able to access and search the internet right now. So it doesn't actually need to crawl it all necessarily. It can actively go out and search it. That's what they're beta testing at the moment.
Wow.
And I understand it's also able to go back into the Wayback Machine to retrieve old information.
Yeah, anything out there you can go search for.
Wow. So Real on TikTok has asked us about our sunglasses. Are you blind?
We've heard that one before.
Somebody earlier asked if we were high, too.
Oh, if we're high, yeah. Okay, Ryle, the best one that I've ever heard was when I was doing videos over in the GMC shop, and somebody in the comments section said, "Man, he sure moves fast for a blind man."
You know, I heard just this morning, you know how sunglasses ended up being created?
No.
Sunglasses were created in ancient China, the very first sunglasses. They were used by judges so that the judges could hide their eyes and hide their emotions from the people that they were examining.
Ah, okay.
Whether it's the defense or the people on the defense or the people prosecuting them. The judges wanted to be able to not be involved emotionally, and the best way they could do that was to put some sort of a lens that was the tinted over their eyes to do it.
So does that mean you should wear sunglasses when you're playing poker?
Oh, yeah, a lot of people
I
do.
totally think that's the case.
A lot of people actually do that.
TZ on TikTok just said poker face.
Yeah, there you go.
Poker face. There we go. Van Goat Wagon has chimed in on TikTok and says to at Real, no, we're not blind. Luckily, it's because we wear eye protection.
Right. Lightning Rod says, I can't read that.
Dibs.
Oh, dibs on Mars. Okay, yeah, going to Mars.
So, and then SJV Tesla says, great story. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And then again, Lightning Rod, LOL, want to buy a 308? It's going to be valuable soon.
Soon, yeah. One thing that we didn't cover earlier, we were talking about the cost of electricity going up because of all the EVs.
Yes.
And someone pointed out, well, we should stay with internal combustion engine cars. I don't think we have any concept how expensive fuel is going to become, gasoline, as the demand begins to decrease and the fixed cost refining capability continues to crank out costs.
Oh, sure.
But can we coincide those so that there is a natural progression into EVs, or will we get high cost of electricity and high cost of fuel and have to live with that until things settle?
I think there'll be change in the petroleum industry because there are so many non-gasoline functions that require a different type of refinement of oil that the refineries will be able to still put out gasoline and not have too much of an increase in cost for a while. But your point is excellent. I think in our lifetime we're going to see, the U.S. has historically been one of the lowest cost gasoline fueling places in the world. Even though the United States is about $3.50 a gallon, that equates to probably about 80 cents a liter right now, and maybe 75 cents a liter. And many places in the world are running between $1.50 and $2 per liter of fuel. And so that for us equates to almost $10 a gallon already.
Right.
And I think it's only going to go up.
Wow. Okay.
Michael Aldia asks, do you think Elon bought Twitter to feed his AI companies?
Wow. Does Elon have an ulterior motive? Well, these stated reasons, of course, are promoting free speech, but at the same time, I think he was bored. Yeah, SpaceX, Tesla, okay, they're taking off, they're doing well, but I spend all my time on Twitter. I mean, he was on there constantly in the middle of
Yeah.
the night,
Yeah.
and that was his hobby. But you you make an interesting point. Is he trying to feed his AI companies? That'd be one way to do it.
That would be. Van Goatwagen has asked, is this real?
Simulation theory.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's talking about the picture in the background, maybe.
Oh, that Roadster? Well, if that's the question, it is AI. It is and you know what? When you look at these AI generated Roadster images, you'll find flaws. If you're familiar with a car, they usually have too many hood vanes, not enough. They put a gas cap on it somewhere. It's a full convertible without the back, roll bar, cage, carbon fiber. But it does a pretty good job of rendering at least the fundamental basic lines of the car. But yeah, that is not real. That is an AI image.
George has asked us, if enough people write the same thing online, will AI believe it to be fact? For example, if everybody writes Pete for President 2024, will AI believe that as fact?
Well, I hope not. I have no plans on running. And like Arnold Schwarzenegger from Austria, I would never be able to be president of the United States because I was not born here. I have to be a naturalized citizen.
In order to be born here, in order to be president, you have to be a birth citizen.
And that was Obama's potential downfall. A lot of doubters about where he was really born.
Yeah.
Well, Pete, I actually have a story on this.
Yeah.
Not on Obama, but on teaching AI.
Okay.
So it requires a little bit of a backstory. I'll leave it out, but there's a phrase me and my friends use, and it's "you're a banana." We call each other bananas as a term of endearment. You're funny, you're silly, you're goofy, you're a banana, right? I wanted AI to call me a banana. And so I said, call me a banana. And it was like, no, I can't insult you. And I was like, it's not an insult. This is a positive thing. And it was like, as an AI language model, I can't infer what your intentions are with this, yada, yada, yada. But I kept on drilling home, like, no, this, like, and it was like, it could be taken out of context. Somebody else could not interpret it the same way. And I was like, no, we made this phrase. This is only the phrase within our group of friends. There's no other meaning for this other than that. And so after going back and forth with it for maybe 10 to 15 minutes, it finally allowed me to ask it to call me a banana, and it did. I opened a new chat the next day or next week, and I was like, what does the term "you are a banana" mean? And it gave me a very similar definition to what I had given it.
It learned.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can't train. Now there's an interesting notion. George is, of course, promoting Watch Rebuild's channel. And if we teach AI about our companies, that seems like the next gold rush, is it not? It's kind of like feeding Wikipedia,
The first people to teach AI are the ones who get to say what it learns.
Yeah.
Wow. There
Great
you
story,
go.
Richard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Of course.
Van Goatwagen says there's a protection law for ICE antique vehicles.
Don't know about that.
I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if it. In fact, actually, in California, I know that they're banning the sale of combustion engine vehicles starting in 2035. I do think that law that bans those has put in some protections for legacy ICE vehicles, so that they will not be wholesale destroyed if somebody doesn't want to have them have it be turned in.
We talk about this often. Stopping the manufacturing of ICE vehicles does not stop vehicles from being on the roads.
Right.
But as global warming and this whole thing begins to evolve in a more dire direction, it's not inconceivable that at some point legislation may be passed that prevents these vehicles from being on the open roads. And now you're stuck with doing it on personal racetracks or specialty tracks. But
you got to think, though, guys, we may not have banned them from the roads, but how many, horse and buggies do you see are driving around these days?
Right. Except in the Amish country. But yeah, I get your point.
Yeah, it'll be. I'm looking forward to watching the progression of that process.
Mhm.
To me, the reality is you're going to start seeing fueling stations become electric only fueling stations, and that will be where the big downfall
Yeah.
comes. Is eventually the infrastructure needed to support all of the ICE vehicles will have converted to support electric vehicles, and you won't be driving your ICE vehicle as much because you won't have a place to fill up with gas.
Or you'll have to do what we do with EVs, which is carry your battery with you, carry your fuel with you, which is somewhat done. And then, yeah, it's, I don't think it's me. I think it's you that's got a phone that's going off. So there's a comment from Lightning Rod. He says, I enjoy this channel so much. It has covered so many things that I am interested in and want to know more about. I just can't thank you enough for spending the time and committing the effort to find and condense all of this very new knowledge for us.
Lightning Rod, that is a wonderful compliment, and thank you so much.
Yeah.
We like having you as part of our show, and that it's you and these people like you that comment that really make this show possible.
Very much so. TikTok, Hahu201 says, how happy I would be if you gave me an electric car. I'm sure there would be a whole bunch of other people that would be just equally as happy.
By all means.
Now, I wanted to point out with this specific comment, he had written it in Amharic, a completely different language. And I'll show you what it looks like real quick. So we've got a visitor from I don't even know where.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're glad that you joined us, and like always, we've had so many people over time from across the world, so that's wonderful. TOC San Joaquin Valley on YouTube also is talking to us, so we know that they're here in the U.S. Good AI Roadster, he says.
Mm-hmm. It did render well. The color is very accurate. Yeah.
We're at 1 hour and 33 minutes.
Okay. Sounds like we need to wrap up. Couple of more questions here then, and then we can close out.
Yep.
Van Goat Wagon says, amen, Lightning Rod. Thank you.
And then Lightning Rod saying to George, saying, at Watch Rich Rebuilds channel, Giga, G-I-G-A, ask any old basic programmer. It means garbage in, garbage all.
I wrote our first accounting software in BASIC. And, very easy language. You could even resequence if you ran out of, because you had to go 10, 15, 20.
Oh, yeah.
And then if you ran out of numbers, you could resequence it and it would automatically do that. That was really state-of-the-art stuff back then. But
it was, and you had those limits on the number of lines. I still remember writing an address book program in a 256K IBM clone computer. And I had to break it into two pieces because your programs could be no longer than 999 lines.
Really?
And so figuring out how to get one program to call another program to run was kind of novel at the time.
Right. Yeah. We've come a long ways. All right. So looks like we're going to wrap. George, final comment is, thanks, guys. Great show. Thank you. 2 thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Tomorrow we have a guest, right? And it's going to be, I'm going to ask you guys to help me here.
Tomorrow we have the bearded Tesla guy. I'm still waiting on a double confirmation, but we have sent him all the info. So it should be bearded Tesla guy tomorrow.
Okay. And next week, Thursday, we have Ellie in Space joining us.
Yep, I reached out. She actually reached back out to me today. It was my mistake yesterday on not getting the scheduling right on that. She was ready to go, and I didn't see her emails, but we have her confirmed for next Thursday, the 6th. So she'll be next week.
And she just got a Model 3, it turns out, so she'll be able to tell us the first impressions of a new owner for a Tesla Model 3. And, of course, a lot of SpaceX experience as well. She lives out there basically at that star base.
So please join us tomorrow when we talk to Bearded Tesla Guy. Sunday is the AI podcast. Friday, we do plug our Gruber Power Services podcast. It talks all things critical power. And then now this next Tuesday is Independence Day here in the United States. I don't think I'm going to be here. I'm not sure about yourself.
I didn't even think about that. That is the 4th then?
Yeah, I think we're working on potentially doing a pre-recorded, but we haven't discussed that yet.
Okay.
So there'll be the possibility that you'll see something on the 4th, but it would not likely be live if you do.
All right. And if you just want to join us for a fireside chat Sunday, Jesse and I come in here at 10 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, AM, and we just theorize. We talk AI. We talk about its capabilities. We try to dispel the hysteria, the fears, and, so if you want to join us, we always have fun with that as well.
Take care, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.